विश्वंदर्पण दृश्यमान नगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतम् पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोध समये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्र पराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्म पादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तन्तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठं अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यैः सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे नमः श्री परमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रियब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ I welcome you all to the 28th class of the Fundamentals of Vedanta series. We have been looking into the question of how an adhikari becomes an adhikari, and we are in the last stages of that discussion. We said that an adhikari becomes an adhikari by gaining sadhana chatushtaya sampattihi, which is vivekaha, vairagyam, shamadhi shatka sampattihi, and mumukshutvam. Now, how does one gain these qualifications? He said one gains these qualifications through karma yoga and upasana yoga. And we have been in the process of discussing what karma yoga is in the last few classes. Now, in order to understand karma yoga, we said it's important to understand 4 subtopics: vasanas, ragadveshas, Īśvara, and Dharma. What are these vasanas? They are the past impressions generated by my own past karmas. And what do vasanas do? Vasanas are in the subconscious mind. I don't even know about their existence until they manifest as raga, dvesha, vrittis in the conscious mind. Raga, dvesha, vrittis are likes and dislikes, attraction and aversion. We divide the world into 2. This part I like, this is favorable to me. This part I don't like, this is not favorable to me. Now, we said that this jiva has got atma ajnanam, self-ignorance. So he doesn't have the vishesha jnanam of who I am. He has the samanya jnanam that I am, but lacks the vishesha jnanam of who I am. And therefore, he invariably makes a mistake with regards to who he is. Therefore, I take myself to be the body and the mind. And then these raga dvesha vrittis arise in the mind. And therefore I say that these raga dvesha vrittis are mine. They become an integral part of my personality. And when that happens, then they whip the jiva into action. Because I like something, I have to try to acquire it. Only in that I see some fulfillment. And if I dislike something, I have to try to remove it. Because only by fixing up the world, I can get some fulfillment. So these pursuit of raga dveshas result in actions. But these actions are always limited. The results of actions are always limited. And therefore, one gets into this kriti mahodadhau patana karanam phalama shashvatam gati nirodhakam. One gets into this ocean of samsara, where one tries to act, gets some little fulfillment out of it, and then it's gone. One tries to act again and act again. This is samsara. And then these can also make the jiva commit adharma, as we said. And therefore, Krishna gives a warning, Tayorna Vasham Agachet. Don't come under the spell of these ragas and dveshas. And how not to come under their spell? The ultimate solution is Atma Jnanam. One has to see that I am Purnam Brahma. I am limitless, full and complete. And these raga dveshas lose their hold over me. That is the ultimate solution. But as we said, that as long as the hold of these ragas and dveshas is strong, the knowledge cannot arise because the mind is turbulent. Therefore, the intermediate solution is to disempower these ragas and dveshas, somehow loosen their hold. They are not totally overcome, but at least loosen their hold somewhat. So that one gets this equanimity of mind. And in such an equanimous mind, then knowledge can take place. So this is the difference between karma and karma yoga. In karma, the aim is to align the world in keeping with my ragas and dveshas. And this kind of an attempt keeps one in samsara. So one always remains this apurnaha individual. It perpetuates this limited individual. This identity with the body and the mind and the raga dveshas is a false individuality. Who am I really? I am Purnam Brahma, but out of ignorance, I am giving credence to this false individuality. And then I am acting according to the dictates of this false individuality. When I act purely in keeping with my ragas and dveshas, and when I try to align in keeping with my ragas and dveshas, when I try to align the world, I am perpetuating this false individuality, and this false individual is apurna. And therefore I perpetuate my apurnatva. But then in Karma Yoga, what is the aim? In Karma Yoga, the aim is to disempower, to loosen the hold of my ragas and dveshas. And therefore, through Karma Yoga, I am trying to lose this hold that the false individuality, false identity has. And that gives room for the knowledge to come in that I am this, I am really this Purnam Brahma. Therefore, the Karma Yoga becomes an indirect means to liberation. The direct means to moksha is jnanam only. But Karma Yoga, through the disempowerment of the ragas and dveshas, becomes an indirect means to liberation. So then the next topic we touched upon was Īśvara, the third topic. As we said, any creation has got two causes. There must be an intelligent cause and there must be materials, the material cause. So when creating a pot, the potter brings the knowledge and the skill for creating the pot. The potter is the intelligent cause. But then he gets the material, the clay, from this world. And then he transforms the material into the product, which is the pot. The material pervades the product. The material goes with the product. When he sells the product, the clay goes along with the pot. Similarly, a carpenter takes wood and then transforms it into furniture. The wood pervades, being the material, the wood pervades the furniture. And when he sells the furniture, the wood goes along with the furniture. The carpenter remains where he is. So in this, the intelligent and the material cause are separate. Now, what about this world? This world is an intelligently put together system. So there must be an intelligent cause and a material cause for it. What Vedanta says is that Īśvara is the intelligent cause. But when Ishvara is there before the creation of the world, even space is not there and time is not there. So then, where does Ishvara get the material from? So this is where we said Vedanta presents this stunning vision that Ishvara, the intelligent cause, himself is the material cause also. Ishvara himself becomes the universe. Well, there is nothing else. There is Ishvara alone. Before this universe came into being, Ishvara was alone. There was nothing else. Therefore, what else? What else can he get? From where can he get? There is no outside. Like the potter got this clay from the world outside. So Ishvara himself has become this world. So this world in front of us is Vishwarupa Ishvara. Wherever the world is, Ishvara is, because wherever the product is, the material is. The material pervades the product. Therefore, Ishvara pervades this world. Ishvara is Sarvavyapi. Therefore, we said, in our vision, there is only God. But then, how do I relate to this Ishvara? So we said that since Ishvara is all pervading, Ishvara pervades the Jiva also. The Ishvara pervades me also. So in the absolute sense, I am identical with Ishvara. I am one with Ishvara. That is the identity that the Mahavakya talks about. Tat Tvam Asi. Jivaha indicated by the Tvam Pada and Ishvaraha indicated by the Tat Pada are one. That is the message of the Mahavakya. That is the ultimate message of Vedanta. Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. And that is the knowledge that we have to strive to achieve, that I am that Purnam Brahma. But then, as we said, as long as the Raga Dveshas have their hold, the knowledge cannot get in. And therefore, the Veda comes down to my level. And the Veda says, it's all right. You take yourself for the time being to be separate from the Ishvara. Ishvara is the whole, I am the part. Ishvara is Bhagavan, I am the Bhakta. One can have this attitude. And why this attitude? Because with this attitude, one can purify one's mind. And that then makes the mind ready for the knowledge to take place. When we saw Karmanyeva Adhikaraste Ma Phaleshu Kadachana. Ma karma phala hetu bhuhu mate sangostva karmani. Karmani eva adhikaraha te. As you, Krishna is telling Arjuna, you, that is the Jivaha. The Jivaha has a choice only on the action. So before doing the action, the Jiva can do a lot of detailed planning and what exactly to do, how to do it, etc. And then execute the action as per the plan. But Ma phaleshu kadachana. But then what happens after the action is done? What kind of result I am going to get? What experiences I am going to get? There is no choice with regards to that. Ma phaleshu kadachana. When ma karma phala hetur bhuhu, Krishna says, don't try to be the karma phala hetuhu. Don't try to be the cause of the karma phala. You are just the karma hetuhu. You are the cause of the action. But the karma phala is determined by the laws of the universe. The laws of the universe process my action and then produce the result. Ma karma phala hetur bhuhu. Then these laws of the universe that govern the universe, what are they? Again, Īśvara himself is present in the form of those laws also, because Īśvara, being the material cause, being the intelligent cause, is all pervading, pervades everything. Īśvara pervades the laws also. The laws are nothing but Īśvara, because the whole world is Īśvara, and whatever is contained in it is Īśvara. So the results are coming from Ishvara. Ishvara becomes the karma phala data. So Ishvara is the karma phala data. I am the karta bhokta. This is the attitude. And then mate sangaha astu karmani. Don't be attached to inaction either. He says, because when the mind is not prepared, withdrawal is not the right thing to do. Because if one withdraws, if one says, like Arjuna wanted to become a bhikshu, he wanted to withdraw from this. He said, I cannot stand this. I want to go away from here. But when the mind is not prepared, withdrawal is not the right thing. Because if one tries to withdraw, then the mind, the raga dveshas are there in the mind will be thinking about artha or kama. Therefore, withdrawal has its place. Withdrawal should be done when the mind is prepared. For Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, etc., withdrawal is required. It has its place, but it cannot be done when the mind is not prepared. So what should an unprepared mind do? Engage in action. So karma is the means for an unprepared mind to grow, to mature. So then karma yoga is what is presented as the means for the maturity, for the growth of an unprepared mind, which is under the control of the ragas and dveshas. So as we said, karma is proper action and yoga is proper attitude. So proper action combined with proper attitude is what makes karma yoga karma yoga. Then what is proper action? This is what we were discussing towards the end of the last class. And we said proper action is action that is in keeping with Dharma. Then we reviewed what is Dharma. We have seen this before. And we have seen two meanings of Dharma that are relevant in this context. The first one is Chodana Lakshana Artha Dharma. The lifestyle, the way of life indicated by the Vedic do's and don'ts, the vidhi and nishedha. These constitute dharma. And what do these vidhi and nishedha indicate? The duties, values, and attitudes. And what are the duties that the Veda indicates? Yajñaha, Dhanam, and Tapaha. Yajñaha are reverential offerings. Dhanam is all kinds of charity. And tapaha are austerities and disciplines. And what are the values? He said many of these values are common sense values. Nobody needs to teach me these values. The Veda is restating many of the common sense values. Like, I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be cheated. I don't want to be stolen from. I know that this is the case. And I also know that the other person doesn't feels the same way, doesn't want to be stolen from, doesn't want to be cheated, doesn't want to be hurt. In fact, all creatures feel the same way. I know this. Nobody needs to teach me this. This is ingrained. So this is the common sense. Dharma atmanah pratikulani pareshan na samacharya. And what are the attitudes? Matridevo bhava, putridevo bhava. We saw all of this. Then we came to the second meaning of dharma, which is this order, harmony, well-being. Dharanat dharma. Whatever is associated with order, harmony, well-being becomes dharma. Like we said, that all other creatures, they don't have a free will. They act because they are programmed to do something. Hence, they cannot do anything wrong. The idea of right and wrong comes only when there is a free will, because only when there is a free will, there is a possibility of abuse of the free will. Therefore, all these creatures around me, including plants and trees, everything, they are all contributing to the sustenance of this creation. It is only the human being who is playing all this mischief that is causing all these unsustainability concerns. The human beings were not there at all. One would not need sustainability initiatives. Why are they needed? Because the human being can do things that are unsustainable. Therefore, the right action on part of the human being that contributes to the well-being of the individual, of the family, of the society, the environment, all of these actions become dharma. The right action then becomes duty for the human being. As we saw that in a team of players, each player has an assigned duty, and when the player does the duty assigned, then the team is in harmony. When the musician plays the right notes at the right time, the music is harmonious. When each part in a machine does its job perfectly, then the machine works properly, harmoniously. Similarly, the human being has to contribute right actions towards the harmony at various levels. And this becomes the duty, dharma of the human being. So then we talked about artha and kamaha, that they should be subservient to dharma. One should not violate dharma in the pursuit of artha and kamaha. Then we talked about samanya dharma and vishesha dharma. Samanya dharma is this common sense dharma that we talked about that applies to everybody. Universal, that nationality or whatever doesn't matter. It applies to every human being. But then there is also this Vishesha Dharma where, based on the person, based on the place, based on the situation, what the right thing to do depends on these factors. And hence that becomes Vishesha Dharma. As we saw the example of a doctor who has to inflict a wound in order to save a patient. He may be superficially doing himsa, violating Samanya Dharma, but it is really his Vishesha Dharma and he should do that. And similarly, a soldier who has been entrusted with the job of guarding the country has to engage in dharma, in himsa if his job requires that. That becomes his Vishesha Dharma. So this is proper action in keeping with dharma. But when we talk about karma yoga, there's another dimension to the proper action also, which is efficacy of action. One can engage in various actions, and they may all be dharma only, but the degree of efficacy of those may vary. Efficacy with regards to what? With regards to producing spiritual growth. That is what our aim is in karma yoga. The actions are classified based on their spiritual growth efficacy. They are classified into three types: Sattvika karmas, Rajasa karmas, and Tamasa karmas. So Sattvika karmas are those that are compulsory as far as the Veda is concerned. So all of this yajna, dhanam, and tapaha, they come under Sattvika karmas. They are considered to be obligatory duties. They are not based on the individual's ragas and dveshas. It is the Shastra that is saying that you do it for the spiritual growth. They are also called Nitya Naimittika karmas, as we saw earlier in the earlier classification that we did. Nitya are daily duties prescribed by the Shastra. Naimittika karmas are those occasional duties prescribed by the Shastra based on certain conditions. So in this, there is no artha and kama motive as far as the karma itself is concerned. In fact, it is a paropakara karma where the beneficiary is generally someone else, meant for somebody else. The beneficiary is oneself, but not materially in terms of spiritual growth. So the primary aim of these karmas is spiritual growth for the doer, not the material growth. So they are not meant for the sake of money or name, fame, or one's own family, etc. And the benefits are subtle and internal. The benefit is chitta shuddhihi and the generation of the spiritual punyam that one gets through the performance of these karmas. So as we said, yajña, dhanam, and tapaha. That's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gītā at one point, yajña dhana tapah karma natyajyam karyameva tat yajña dhana tapaschaiva yajña dhanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. So yajña dana tapah karma natyajyam karyam eva tat, says Krishna. These karyas, yajna, dhanam, and tapaha should never be abandoned, should never be given up. Natyajyam karyam. Yajna, dhana, tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. These karmas are the purifiers. Pavanani. They are the purifiers of the manishinam. Manishin here means the devout ones who view the Veda as a pramana, or the discriminative ones the mumukshus who want to do these karmas for the sake of self-purification. So an example of this is the Panca Mahā Yajñas. We will see what these are, but these are considered to be the uttama karmas, the most efficacious karmas for the sake of upliftment, of spiritual upliftment of an individual. So they are mostly, as we said, paropakara karma, selfless acts that are not coming from these ragadveshas, because what is coming from the ragadveshas perpetuate this false identity. So these are not coming from the raga dveshas of the individual. They are compulsory karmas as far as the Shastra is concerned, in order to loosen the grip of the ragas and dveshas. Then the next type of karma is Rajasa karma. So Rajasa karmas are those that arise from the ragas and dveshas of the individual. I have certain likes and I want to pursue that. I have certain likes and dislikes, and I want to adjust the world in accordance with that. So the Shastra doesn't prohibit this. It says you are okay, you can do that as long as what you do is in keeping with Dharma. You don't violate Dharma in this process. So these are not the compulsory karmas ordained by the Vedas. But these are the ones that are done on an individual basis based on what one wants to accomplish in terms of one's ragas and dveshas. For example, if one wants wealth, then the Shastra itself also prescribes this avahanti homa. Or then putra kameshti yagaha if one wants a child. Or if one wants good health, ayushya homa, etc. So this is all done because the individual wants something. But these are said to be madhyama karmas in terms of their spiritual efficacy. They are meant for one's material growth. But in terms of their spiritual efficacy, they are secondary to these uttama karmas. They are the madhyama karmas. And then finally, there are these tamasa karmas, which are the nishiddha karmas, the prohibited actions. And the Shastra desists one from engaging in these because they violate dharma, like lying, cheating, in order to do something, lying or cheating or doing this, that, etc., which is against dharma. And those are nishiddha karmas. Now, these rajasa and tamasa karmas, they, as we said, arise from the raga dveshas, and therefore they have the maximum potential to perpetuate this false identity, to keep this person in this limited individual. But then, if you look at sattvika versus rajasa karmas, one may do the sattvika karmas that we talked about, the yajna, dana, and tapaha. A religious materialist may also do it. His aim is materialism. He is using religion for the sake of materialism. So if such a person does it with an intent of materialistic growth, if he is doing yajna, danam, and tapaha, then that also becomes less effective spiritually. Because some of the punyam from that is converted into material punyam. It is still effective spiritually, but its spiritual effectiveness becomes lesser. The same way, if one is doing rajasa karmas, then if one does it with certain attitudes that we'll talk about, then that karma then also takes on a sattvic flavor to some extent. Even though it cannot match the spiritual efficacy of the sattvika karmas done with pure spiritual intent. Even though this is done with a materialistic intent, the rajasa karmas can also come under the ambit of karma yoga. We'll see how that happens. So it all depends on one's intent and one's attitudes when one is doing the karma. So let us look at these Panca Mahā Yajñas, which are the most efficacious spiritual karmas if they are done with the intent for chitta shuddhi. So the Vedas talk about three debts, three rina that every human being has. Three debts. And these three debts are to Īśvara, to rishis, and to one's ancestors. So why are the three debts there? Because Īśvara has provided everything that I know. Īśvara has become this world. And in this world only I am pursuing my artha, kama, dharma, and moksha. He has given the entire infrastructure for the pursuit of the purusharthas. And therefore one is indebted to Īśvara. The second rina is to rishis. Because the rishis are the seers of the Vedic mantras. And they have given us this teaching that can give us all the four purusharthas. The Veda Purva tells us about dharma. And Vedanta tells me about moksha purushartha, through which I can gain liberation. So for this entire teaching, one is indebted to the rishis. The third is to one's own ancestors. I am here because of my parents. They were instrumental in producing this body. And subsequently, when I was an infant, a helpless infant, they took care of this child and then gave it food, clothing, shelter, and finally educated the child, made the child stand on one's own legs. They made a lot of sacrifices for the sake of the child. So for all of this, one is indebted to one's parents and also to one's ancestors, because without the ancestors, I would not have been here. So these are the first three yajñas. And then the Veda adds the other two, Manushya Yajña and Bhuta Yajña, for the sake of the fellow human being and the sake of the creatures around me. As we said, these are the most efficacious karmas for Chitta Shuddhi. These are the Paropakara karmas. There is no Artha Kama motive built into these karmas per se. They are meant for Paropakara and primarily meant for spiritual growth. People may superficially feel, if I do all of this, how am I going to gain, etc. Because the actual gain may not be visible. Just like our vasanas and samskaras are not pratyaksham, they cannot be seen. Similarly, this chitta shuddhi and the spiritual punyam that gets generated is not seen. But the Veda says it will be there. Doing these yajñas, doing these yajñas, performance of these actions that come under the umbrella of these yajñas will give tremendous spiritual upliftment. It may not be tangibly visible, because these samskaras that are generated, the punyam that are generated, they are invisible. Apaurushaya vishaya. But this spiritual growth is definitely there. So the first of these, as we said, is Deva Yajña. Deva Yajña is basically offerings, reverential offerings to Īśvara. And how is this done? It can be done in the form of a puja with an image in front of me. One can chant the names of Bhagavan. One can offer flowers, etc. So all of this is under the ambit of the puja. Deva Yajña, visiting temples, offering worship there. All of this comes under Deva Yajña, contributing my time, energy, and resources to the places of worship. All of that comes under Deva Yajña. So initially, when one does some of these, then one may not have this feeling of devotion, etc. And one may even start these off with some artha and kama motive. And Veda says it's okay, but gradually one has to grow out of it. And this feeling and devotion will come later. Gradually it will come. The gratitude and devotion. This is Deva Yajña. Then the next one is Pitri Yajña. So how does one repay the debt to the ancestors? First of all, by respecting them. Matradevo bhava, Pitradevo bhava. By doing, the parents are alive, then doing namaskaras daily to them. Having a feeling of gratitude towards them. Showing it in my actions and words towards them. All of this comes under Pitri Yajña. And then even starting a family, and then having children, passing on the Kula Dharma, the family values. etc., to those children, that all comes under Pitri Yajna. And then taking care of the parents in old age. These days, it is increasingly becoming it is increasingly a trend that many of the parents are being sent to old age homes, etc. And the children don't even know what is going on. Or in many cases, there are parents living by themselves in old age with a lot of sicknesses, etc. And sometimes the children, they are somewhere else and they call once a week, speak for 10 minutes, exchange pleasantries, and they don't know what is going on. The struggle that the parents are going through. Sometimes they don't even call weekly. So all of this is unfortunate. Really speaking, it is one duty to make sure that the parents are comfortable in old age. All of this comes under Pitri Yajna. And then after the parent passes away, and there are certain duties that the Veda says the child must do. All of that. And then subsequently, because the ancestors continue to exist in a sukshma form until they take their next embodiment, there are certain duties the Veda prescribes that have to be done annually, monthly, etc. So doing all of that comes under Pitri Yajna. Now the third one is called Brahma Yajna. These are duties, our offerings to rishis. Rishis, as we saw, they have given us this great teaching. And how does one repay the debt? First of all, by learning the teachings. What are the teachings about? That is what the Brahmacharya ashrama is meant for. Study of the Vedas, study of the Shastras, study of the Puranas, study of the Itihasas, study of the Bhagavad Gītā, etc. All of this comes under Brahma Yajna. And then having Shraddha in these teachings. Trying to follow these teachings, what the rishis have given us. That is the greatest way to repay this debt. And then supporting the institutions that engage in the teachings of these. And passing on these teachings to the next generation also, ensuring that the children also get some of this. Even though our modern educational system has tried to separate them from this, somehow try to supplement that and ensure that the children are also, they get some insight into this and develop some Shraddha and respect for this. So all of this comes under Deva Yajna. Similarly, contributing to these institutions and devoting some time in terms of our time, energy, resources, etc., towards these institutions also. All of this comes under Brahma Yajna. And then there is Manushya Yajna, contributions to the fellow human beings. In fact, a lot of the social service organizations are doing this. But what the social service organizations that have the secular bent of mind, they're doing good service. But what they say is, why do you want to do all these other things? Like Deva Yajna, Pitri Yajna, Brahma Yajna, all this is not required. Just do Manushya Yajna and that is enough. The Veda says that just as one has to have a balanced diet, one cannot just eat rice. Rice is important, but it has to be supplemented with proteins and vegetables, etc. Similarly, here too, there has to be a balanced diet where one's actions are in all of these fields. They are all important for one's spiritual growth. And finally, there is Bhuta Yajña, service to the offerings to the creatures around me, to the environment. See, Veda recognized the importance of sustainability. It is built into the Veda. Because the entire world is Īśvara. Īśvara is not a resource meant for exploitation. When one has the vision that the entire world is Īśvara, then one doesn't view it as a resource to be exploited. In fact, that is a Western worldview. And with the Industrial Revolution, this worldview picked up that everything around me has to be exploited. And in that, they compromised the entire ecology. A lot of creatures became extinct and are continuing to become extinct. But they all had important role to play in this creation. And now only everybody is suddenly realizing in the last 5 years, 10 years, everybody has realized this importance of climate change, and everybody is jumping up and down. But this was never our vision to begin with. So there has to be sensitivity towards the creatures around, towards the environment. That is why all of this kolam, doing the kolam outside, one does it. And it feeds the ants indirectly. One feeds the crows before having a meal. Waters the tulasi plant. We worship creatures and trees. And therefore, one doesn't view those as a resource for exploitation. All of this comes under Bhuta Yajña. So this is the Panca Mahā Yajñas. So through these Panca Mahā Yajñas, which is a model yajna that we have taken from the Veda. So in this, only one really emerges as a contributor to this creation. See, in everything else that we do, there will always be this consumer behind the action. There will be some idea of consumption. There will be some idea of artha and kamaha. And what is artha and kamaha? I am a consumer. I am trying to make use of this creation for my limited individuality, for giving it security and enjoyment. But in this, the contributor becomes evident in Panca Mahā Yajña. The contributor comes out. And this is how one tries to break out of the shell of the false individuality that has me under its spell. So this is Panca Mahā Yajña. So with this background now, let us look at what is proper action. We talked about all of this. We talked about proper action having a dharmic dimension. It should be in line with dharma. And then there is an efficacy dimension itself. The contributor should come out, not the consumer, because that is when the spiritual growth is maximum. So all of this becomes the indicators of proper action. So proper action, one has to engage this discretion in action. When one is doing the action, one has to have a choice of proper action in Karma Yoga. Therefore, the first thing is, it should not be guided by my ragas and dveshas. My ragas and dveshas should become subservient to Dharma. That is where the Dharma Vivekaha becomes important. Being sensitive to the common sense values becomes important, and Shastra study is also important. Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Vyavasthitau. The Shastra is the Pramana for what is to be done, what is not to be done. So as we saw, that there has to be this counterbalancing vritti that comes in. My raga, I may have raga for something that is adharma, but then I bring in the counterbalancing vritti that says, this is adharma. I want to do it perhaps because there is some gain in the short term, but there will be a longer term loss. Therefore, one doesn't engage in it. Or I'm about to do some dharma, or there has some thought of doing dharma, some dharma karyam, but one may have some dvesha for it. Why do you want to engage in all this? It may cause some, I have to do this sitting for so much time, etc., or spend so much time over there. I might rather do something else. This type of a vritti may be there, but then one says there is some discomfort in the short term, no doubt, but it will give me a greater gain in the longer term. Therefore, I must do it. This is the counterbalancing vritti. So this is how proper action is determined. And then there is the efficacy dimension, as we talked about. I should try to increase the sattvika karmas. I should try to increase the sattvika karmas with an attitude of I want to gain chitta shuddhi out of it. That is also important. And then one has to try to contain the rajasa karmas, where I am having these raga dveshas, where I am trying to pursue those raga dveshas. Try to contain that. One can try to contain that to what is minimum that is required. Not always rampantly pursue my ragas and dveshas. And even if one does, it has to be in keeping with dharma. That is not compromisable. And avoid tamasa karmas altogether. And in all of this, whatever I do, I have to have chitta shuddhi as my motive. Of course, when the karma is raga dvesha oriented, that is not possible. The dvesha is the ragas and dveshas are the intent. But even there, I want to gain some chitta shuddhi. We will see that next. So chitta shuddhi is the motive, not artha and kamaha primarily. That is the purpose of sattvika karma. That is how I increase the efficacy of my karmas. And I have to watch my prayers also to Īśvara. What am I praying for? See, a lot of times we have been conditioned to pray for this, pray for that, etc. We don't carefully watch what I am praying for. But one has to become sensitive to this also. That am I praying for artha and kamaha? Or am I praying for spiritual growth? So as we said, initially we teach our children to pray for artha and kamaha, because that is how God, Īśvara, comes into their lives. We say, before you go for the exam, pray to Īśvara, say that I may do well and get more marks, etc. So that is how Īśvara comes into our lives. Then we say gradually one has to grow out of these kind of prayers also. And then one has to try to pray for chitta shuddhi, for spiritual growth. So this is also a part of this efficacy dimension of the actions and prayers. So this is where Krishna uses a phrase called kaushalam. And I had sent the PDF in the last class. So we'll look at the next shloka there. The shloka number 50 of the second chapter. Shloka number 50 of the second chapter. That is where Krishna uses the word kaushalam. Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. So the shloka says, buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmat yogaya yujyasva yoga karmasu kaushalam. So here Krishna is saying buddhi yuktaha, the one who is endowed with this proper action and proper attitude of karma yoga. Buddhi yuktaha iha jahati. Jahati means one gives up, one drops. Iha jahati ubhe sukrita dushkrite. That means he goes, sukrita dushkrita means punyam and papa. So this person goes beyond punya and papa. So as long as one is a karta, one is this limited karta, and one is doing these actions, then whatever punya and papa arises, that the bhokta will experience. So one is under the hold of the punya and papa, because those will manifest as experiences subsequently that the bhokta has to experience. But then the one who gains the knowledge, he knows I am not the karta, I am not the bhokta. We will talk about more about this later. Because Brahman is akarta, abhokta. So with this knowledge one goes beyond punya and papa. But then here he says karma yogi goes beyond this. So how is that possible? So here Shankara adds a note in his bhashyam. He says sattva shuddhi jnana prapti dvarena. Sattva shuddhi jnana prapti dvarena sukrite dushkrite sukrita dushkrite iha jahati. So it is only by gaining this chitta shuddhi, the karma yogi gains this chitta shuddhi, and then he gains jnanam. Because then only this jnanam can take place. So that is the sequence, chitta shuddhi followed by jnanam. And he says, tasmad yogaya yujyasva yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Therefore, be steadfast in karma yoga, he says. And he uses the term yogaha karmasu kaushalam. So this kaushalam here is this discretion in action, exercising discretion in action, doing proper action, doing efficacious action. So this kind of action is kaushalam in action. Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. And then if there are these ragas and dveshas that are not in keeping with dharma, then I don't go with them. I don't add fuel to the fire. I don't encourage them. But I don't pursue them as actions. So they rise as fancies and they die away as fancies. The yogaha karmasu kaushal. Then the next important attitude is Ishvarārpaṇa Buddhiḥ. Ishvarārpaṇa Buddhiḥ. So as we said, Īśvara is in the form of this world. And Īśvara is manifest as everything in this world. Therefore, even my common sense dharma that says I want to be treated in a particular way, and everybody else wants to be treated in a particular way, this I know without anybody teaching me. So Īśvara is manifest in the form of this samanya dharma also. This common sense is there. Whatever is Īśvara. Īśvara is manifest in the form of this samanya dharma in every creature, every human being. So, Pujya Swamiji points out that if a human being was created without this idea of common sense, then that would have been a defective creation. Imagine a car producer, like a Ferrari producer, producing a Ferrari without brakes. That's a defective car. Once you put your legs on the accelerator, feet on the accelerator, once the car gains speed, you don't have a way to stop it. That's a defective product. So similarly, a human being has been given this capacity for action. But if there is no regulation of the action, if there is no way to put brakes on the action, then it's like a defective car. Ishvara's creation is perfect. So this common sense dharma, this is manifest Ishvara, put into the human being with a very important purpose, to regulate the actions of the human being. And similarly, Ishvara has put me in a particular place in this creation, in a particular role, in a particular situation. So that brings certain Vishesha Dharma to me. That role brings certain Vishesha Dharmas. Even the Vishesha Dharma that particular roles entail, those are also manifestations of Ishvara. Ishvara is present in the form of Samanya and Vishesha Dharma. Just as a creator of a machine envisions a particular role for each part, and when each part does that role very well, then the whole machine works very well, satisfying the intent of the creator. When every musician plays the right note, then that produces harmonious music. So that becomes an offering to the music director who envisioned the entire music. So similarly, when I do my duties in a particular role in line with Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma, then my actions are in harmony with Dharma. And what is Dharma? Dharma is manifest Ishvara. So my actions are in harmony with Ishvara. They become an offering to Ishvara. So this is where the next shloka of Bhagavad Gita and the PDF that I had given, that comes in. So this says how our actions become an offering to Ishvara. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam. Swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavah. So yatah pravrittir bhutanam. So that Ishvara from which all these beings have emerged, from that Ishvara all these beings have emerged. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam. Yatah bhutanam pravrittihi. Yena sarvamidam tatam, by whom this whole world is pervaded. Sarvamidam tatam. Yena, by whom this whole world is pervaded. By that Ishvara, this whole world is pervaded. Swakarmana tam abhyarchya. Swakarmana, with one's actions in keeping with Samanya and Vishesha Dharma, with these efficacious actions. Tam abhyarchya, tam Ishwaram, that Ishvara abhyarchya. Abhyarchya means having worshipped Ishvara. So this is not talking about worship of Ishvara in a puja setting. This is talking about worshipping the Vishwarupa Ishvara who is manifest in front of me with the right actions in any situation. The right actions in any situation are an offering, become an offering to Ishvara, and with such offerings, siddhim vindati manavaha, this human being attains success. So here too Shankara clarifies what type of siddhi it is. Siddhim vindati means what? Jnana nishtha yogyata lakshanam siddhihim. This person gets this yogyata for jnana, becomes qualified for jnana. So this is Ishvarārpaṇa Buddhiḥ. If I have to offer my actions to Ishvara, and they have to be in keeping with Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma, because Ishvara is manifest in the form of Dharma that is telling me what right action is. And when I bring in Ishvarārpaṇa Buddhiḥ, when I have this attitude that I am offering these actions to Ishvara, then I automatically bring in excellence in those actions also. I try to do it properly. I try to do it cheerfully. Sometimes we have, some chores that we have to do, and one may grumble doing those chores. But that a karma yogi never grumbles. He says, this is something that has to be done. I am here, this chore is there. Who else is going to do the chore? This Vishesha Dharma is saying this chore has to be done. by me. And it's an offering to Īśvara. Let me do it cheerfully. Let me do it properly. And then I have a choice only in action. Karmani eva adhikaraha. So one tries to find joy in the action itself because I have no control over the karma phala. So if my joy is tied to the karma phala, my mind will go up and down. So I might try to derive some joy from the action itself. This is Ishvarārpaṇa Buddhiḥ. Then the next important attitude is Prasāda Buddhiḥ. Proper action and proper attitude. We are discussing what this proper attitude is. Prasāda Buddhiḥ. As we said, all the results are coming from Īśvara. Therefore, I have no control over the outcome. So a karma yogi knows this. I have done my action. Whatever result it is depends on Īśvara. So he doesn't worry about the result. Because he says, whatever is the result from Īśvara, coming from Īśvara, I will accept it as prasada. When I go to a temple, I make my offerings there. Then I get something, it may be some sweet, or it may be a leaf, a tulasi leaf, or it may be some tirtham, or it may be some ashes, vibhuti. But whatever I get, I don't complain about the quantity or the quality. I say this is coming from Īśvara. I bow down my head, I accept it with humility. So we say that same attitude has to come into this world also. So whatever is coming, I accept it with humility. It's coming from Īśvara. So the result may have four possibilities. It may be the same as I expect. It may be lesser than what I expect. It may be more than what I expect. Or it may be completely opposite of what I expect. But I accept it. All of this with this sameness of mind. This is samatvam. I accept it as prasada. So this is where the next shloka of Bhagavad Gītā in the PDF comes in, where Krishna talks about the samatvam. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. Shloka number 48 of the second chapter. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. So this is the samatvam defining shloka in the Bhagavad Gītā. He says, Yogastha kuru karmani, being steadfast in yoga. Do the actions. Hey Dhananjaya, Arjuna, do your action, being a karma yogi. Sangam tyaktva siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva. And when the result comes, then don't go by your raga dveshas. Saying, I don't like this result, or I like this result, etc. Don't judge the result. It's coming from Īśvara. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva. Try to cultivate this sameness of mind with regards to the result. Samatvam yoga uchyate. This samatvam is the proper attitude that makes it karma yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. So this is the proper attitude. So now what are the benefits of karma yoga? I will take a few more minutes and finish this topic. So we have come to the end of karma yoga now. Talking about the benefits of this proper action and proper attitude. So first of all, there is dilution of ragas and dveshas, disempowerment of ragas and dveshas. Why? Because during proper action, the ragas and dveshas have become subservient to dharma. I am not going blindly by my ragas and dveshas. I am bringing in dharma, dharma vivekaha, and only doing that which is dharma. So they become subservient to dharma. And therefore, there is a distancing from my own ragas and dveshas that happens through proper action. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. I engage, I exercise this discretion in action, kaushalam. And through that, I'm not going by my ragas and dveshas. I'm going by what is the right thing to do and what is not the right thing to do. Therefore, there is a disempowerment of the ragas and dveshas. Then at the time of accepting the results, actually right after having done the action, we say the Karma Yogi says, I have done whatever I have to do. Now it's up to Īśvara. This may apply even in the case of raga and dvesha oriented actions. One may have done something out of raga and dvesha, one may have done it following dharma. Then when it comes to the result, one can still be a karma yogi. One can say, I have done whatever I have to do. Now it's up to Īśvara. I will accept whatever Īśvara wants to give me. So in this, the worry goes away. There is no dwelling on what the action could be and what will I do if it is this, if it is that, etc. So the prayer of a karma yogi, Swamiji talks about this, is yad bhavyam bhavatu bhagavan purva karmanurupam. That I have done whatever I have to do. Now let whatever has to happen according to the law of karma, according to Īśvara. According to Īśvara means according to the law of karma. Whatever has to happen according to the law of karma, let it happen. I am willing to face it. I am willing to accept it. So this is the prayer of a karma yogi after an action is done. Because he accepts all results as prasada. Prasāda Buddhiḥ is there. So there is no extreme elation if the result is in keeping with what I wanted. There is no going into the depression if the result is not in keeping with what I wanted. Sameness of mind, samatvam is there. Prasāda Buddhiḥ. So this again, here the raga dveshas become subservient to Īśvara, to Prasāda Buddhiḥ, and therefore again the raga dveshas are disempowered. So the turbulence of the mind comes down. Say, and Swamiji talks about this. He calls it FIR reduction. FIR reduction means the frequency of negative reactions, the intensity of negative reactions come down. Why? Because Prasāda Buddhiḥ is there. Samatvam is there. And if there is a negative reaction, then the recovery period from that negative reaction also comes down. This is FIR reduction. And as a result of this, Swamiji says that there is an increase of 3 C's. Meaning calmness, cheerfulness, and confidence. An increase in triple C, and there's a reduction of FIR. This is the reduction. This is the turbulent mind that we were talking about, that there is a reduction in all of this turbulence. Why was the turbulence there? Because of the hold of the ragas, dveshas. When the ragas and dveshas are disempowered, and there is a FIR reduction and an increase in the triple C. Then this mind becomes a learning mind, not a reacting. And as we have discussed, the learning mind then becomes objective. He doesn't view the world through the goggles of the ragas and dveshas as much. So he begins to see the three defects in all of these accomplishments: dukkha mishritatvam, atriptikaratvam, and bandhakatvam. That all accomplishments are mixed with sorrow. Why? Because they can only give me anitya sukham. Atriptikaratvam, they leave me unfulfilled, and bandhakatvam, they make me more dependent on the world, because these raga dveshas actions, they make me more dependent on the world. So he begins to see these defects, and then he begins to ask, is there any other way that I can gain this fulfillment that I am looking for? And that is how he comes to moksha purushartha. Having realized the defects in the first three purusharthas, having discovered the problem of samsara. So this gives the spiritual inclination. And then there are two more benefits. It gives the spiritual competence also. It is not enough to have the spiritual inclination. It is not enough to be a mumukshuhu. One has to have the other qualifications also. So one gets this vivekaha. Why? Because one sees that all of this is giving me anitya sukham. What I am really looking for is this nitya sukham, and therefore I have to have this nitya vastu pursuit. This is vivekaha. Nitya nitya vastu vivekaha. It gives me vairagyam because this dosha drishtihi, this seeing the defects, and then no longer emotionally leaning on, no longer emotionally longing for these pursuits, because one sees that these can only give me anitya sukham. They have these three doshas. Therefore, I should lean on the nitya vastuhu. Therefore, one gets this vairagya, and this search for the nitya vastu begins. This is the mumukshutva. So it gives this spiritual competence also. So spiritual inclination and spiritual competence. And finally, it gives the spiritual opportunity also, because these efficacious karmas, they generate spiritual punyam. And the spiritual punyam, then one brings one to a guru. Because one may have the spiritual inclination and spiritual competence, but if one doesn't get the opportunity, then one cannot progress. Therefore, the spiritual punyam brings one to a guru. And sometimes one has a guru, but then may not have the opportunity for shravanam. Therefore, the spiritual from punyam produces the opportunity for shravanam also. And through this, one progresses spiritually. So spiritual inclination, spiritual competence, and spiritual punyam, all of these are the result of karma yoga. With this, we have concluded the topic of karma yoga. So we will look into the next topic, which is upasana yoga, and some related discussions we will continue in the next class. So with this, I'll conclude now. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So yes, I see somebody whose name is S. I'm not sure who that is.
Sri Krishna, I think.
Who's Sri Krishna? Yeah, sure.
Krishna. Yeah.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, you have a comment or question?
Yes, in fact, I have 2-3 questions,
Yeah,
or rather clarifications actually.
sure.
So these yajna that we do, um, the Pitru Yajnam, Manushya Yajnam, and Bhuta Yajnam, they definitely have some material result. Meaning, when we do something, somebody directly benefits out of it, or they get what they are due to get. I mean, it's not that we are offering something more than what they are due to get, but we have to
Yes,
perform it so that they get what they are due.
yes, yes.
The first two,
Yes, basically, the material result for the doer
right,
is not the intended, but
correct,
definitely there is a material result for whoever is the receiver of that action. That is true.
correct, correct. That is one, and they are due to get that material effect. So
Yes,
there's no denying that. But if you
yes,
look at Deva Yajnam and Brahma Yajnam, there is
yes,
no one to receive the benefit, either material or otherwise, right? So what my understanding is, it is not the result of this yajna is not to produce any benefit for the receiver, but it is to change the attitude of the doer to being a person with gratitude. Basically, by doing this,
yes,
I only feel more gracious that I'm supposed to have this feeling of gratitude because I have benefited earlier, and because of that, uh, the clarification that I have is that the performance of these yajna, the objective is not only to bring some result to the other party, but the main objective is to produce a certain set of attitudes to the doer. Is this correct, or is it more the
yes.
result matters more?
No, the primary motive of all of this is chitta shuddhi. That is why the doer is asked to engage in it.
Hmm.
But as one does it, there is all of these benefits that accrues to the receiver also. And in some cases, like you said, the receiver is not very obvious. That is all. For
Hmm.
example, in Īśvara, we cannot really say that Īśvara has to gain something from this. Because Īśvara, as we have discussed, is Purnaha.
Correct. Correct.
But
Exactly. Exactly my
but
question.
but when one is engaging in karmas that are under the ambit of Ishvara Deva Yajña, then there are also, for example, other participants in it.
Hmm.
So the other participants are also there who also get the benefit. And then the offerings, for example, that you make to Ishvara,
Hmm.
you may offer some food, etc. So
Hmm.
there are people who come and receive that. There may be some annadanam and all that that is done as a part of that, right?
Hmm.
There is
Hmm.
prasada that is distributed.
Hmm.
So there are other people who are receiving some material benefit from it. In fact, I know some people who are purely dependent on the prasada that is offered in temples for
Hmm.
their daily existence.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So indirectly, there are all these kinds of benefits also. And similarly, when we engage in Brahma Yajna, when we are doing all of this, all of the Parayanam, etc., we say that even Shravanam of it, one gains punyam.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So there are other people sitting around who are listening to it.
Hmm.
When
Hmm.
one engages in the sharing of it, that is Brahma Yajna. There are other people who are listening to it. And then when one is supporting the institutions that are teaching this, then the sustenance of these institutions is a service to the community because they are propagating the teachings in the community. There are people who are benefiting from the teachings. So there are basically a lot of these other benefits that may not be very obvious, but they are there.
Right. 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 One. Okay. Let me rephrase it a
Yes,
little bit. My point
sure.
was, when we, let's say, do a prayer, or
Yes.
when we offer our prayers to Īśvara and make an offering to the Īśvara, what are we actually offering? For example, if we offer a flower or a fruit or something, it is
Yes.
not my creation, it is Ishvara's creation. So it is just
Yes.
taking from somewhere and then giving. So what is it like that I can truly offer is only my action or my thought or
Yes.
my feeling, right? I mean,
Yes.
so those are the only things that I can really offer. The other things are not my
Well, really speaking, there is basically, as we said, there are offerings that one can make to temples, for example, right?
hmm,
What is that? I am parting with some of the artha that is in my possession.
hmm,
I call it mine, right?
correct, correct, correct.
Call it mine. And I am parting with some of that. So, in fact, yajna requires some artha uh, that 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 one spends in some of these yajnas also. Any kind of yajna you take, there is some artha involved there, and therefore one is offering that. But really speaking, even that is given to be by Ishvara only.
Correct, correct, correct.
So really speaking, you are right that there is nothing that I can truly offer to Ishvara.
Hmm,
But then there are certain things that I am calling mine,
hmm,
my time, my energy, my resources. So
hmm,
when
hmm.
I'm engaging in all of this and I'm saying that with that attitude that I am offering to you, that results in my purification.
Okay, okay, got it. Got it. Got it. And one point which I'm sure that you have covered earlier, but some maybe I have missed somewhere, is see when we say raga dvesha, I have these ragas and dveshas,
Yeah.
and that is not inconsistency. It is not consistent with dharma.
Yeah.
Are we separating the Brahman from me? Meaning, if raga dvesha is mine. Uh,
Hmm.
it is supposed to be Brahman's raga dvesham, right? I mean, it's somewhere maybe I have not fully understood the how I can still independently have raga dveshas despite
See,
I think.
really
Hmm,
speaking, one doesn't have raga dveshas. You
hmm,
don't have raga dveshas.
hmm,
Really speaking, in the absolute sense, raga
hmm,
dveshas are not there.
hmm, hmm,
Raga dveshas are a product of Maya. And really
hmm,
speaking, Maya
hmm,
is
hmm.
not there at all. We'll come to that.
Okay,
Only
okay,
Brahman is there.
correct, correct, correct. That's what
But
I was thinking.
then, but then out of ignorance, I have
Hmm,
taken this body to be me. I have taken this mind to be me. And I am the one who's saying these ragas and dveshas are mine.
hmm. Got it, got it, got it, got it. Super, super. Thank you, thank you so much.
Yes,
Sir, last,
Vishwanathan. Yeah.
yeah, last question from my side. Two
Sure.
questions.
Yeah.
Today's topic was on karma yoga and the benefits of karma yoga. So while we engage in the action, or after completing the action,
Yeah.
we have to say that, in the Vishnu Sahasranama, the last sloka,
Mm.
Kayena Vacha Manasendriyarva, and then
Yes.
Arayanat Samarpayami. If I do that, will it be towards my attitude that, I'm slowly trying to become in the path of the karma yoga?
Yes, that is definitely Ishvarārpaṇa Buddhiḥ. Kāyena
Yes.
vācā manasendriyarva
Sendriyarva,
buddhyātmana va prakrite
Prakrite
svabhavat
Swabhava,
karomi
yat
sakalam
Sakalam
parasam Narayana iti samarpayami.
Samarpayami.
So
Yes.
that is Ishvarārpaṇa Buddhiḥ that is highlighted in that shloka. After completing anything, I offer it to Ishvara. But then, in order to make it offer worthy to Ishvara, only if it is in line with dharma, it can be offered to Ishvara.
Correct.
And therefore, I should try to increase the actions that are in keeping with dharma.
Yes, absolutely. That is my first question. You have answered it.
Yes.
Second one, you had talked about the Panca Mahā Yajñas, one of them in the Rishi Yajna. Now, if I remember correct, I'm also doing it for quite some time now. After the Madhyanikam, we do the Brahma Yajñam.
Brahma Yajna.
And then on Avani Avitam and Gayatri Japam, we do the Kanda Rishi Tarpanam. If these two, if I do it on a regular basis, that is also my daily practice of offering my prayer or maybe offerings to the Rishi. Will it be equal to
Yes.
that, what you said?
Yes. Yes. See, really speaking, these Panca Mahā Yajñas, they have Vedic yajñas specifically designed for each of these also.
Mm.
And in other than that, there are the Laukika aspects of it also that we have discussed.
Correct.
So both are there. So yes, if one engages in the Vedika aspects of these, then that would definitely fall under Panca Mahā Yajña. And then there is also the Laukika aspects of it that are also there.
Last question before we quit, sir. Sorry for holding you all.
Yeah, sure.
Now, when we engage in our daily actions, whether it is official or personal or maybe Laukika actions, the buddhi comes to me all the time. Buddhi comes to anybody for that matter, that I'm looking for the result. Always. This thought process, how to know, though you have taught many things, how to remove this thought because of raga, dvesha and other things, but it's not coming out. Ultimately, I'm looking for a result, end of the day.
Yes.
And that buddhi I need to remove, I'm unable to
No,
do that.
no,
I don't know.
this is a very important question.
Yeah.
And in fact, we say that one cannot do an action without having some goal or result in mind.
Correct.
So definitely there's this thing that says prayojanam anuddishya mandopi na pravartate.
Yeah.
So there is some prayojana that every action has, the doer of the action has some prayojana in mind. In fact, even when Krishna was teaching Arjuna, he had the prayojana in mind that I am going to at least make him understand something. Right? So even a teacher has got a prayojana in mind that hopefully the student will gain something out of it.
Okay.
So without a prayojana, it is impossible to do any action. Prayojana is there. But then what one has to disengage from is the insistence on a particular result.
Understood. So Ishvara Prasāda, what he's trying to say, understood.
Yes. So I can definitely have, certain goals with regards to which actions are done. And that will be there. But as long as those actions are in keeping with Dharma, I can offer them to Īśvara.
Correct.
But then at the time of the result, I am open to whatever Īśvara has given.
Yes, okay. That attitude we need to develop. Okay, so it means what I ask is a relevant question here, the last
Yes,
one.
very relevant question. Very.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Very well. Yeah.
We'll conclude. Hari.
Hari Om.
Hari.
Hari
Hari
Om.
Om.
Hari.
Thank you.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om Gopal.
Hari Om, Namaste.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.